The aircraft hummed steadily as it cut through the upper atmosphere, a low, constant vibration that blended with the soft whine of air circulation and the occasional chime from the cockpit. Most passengers had settled into that quiet, suspended state that came somewhere between boredom and rest. Seats were reclined. Screens glowed dimly. Conversations had faded into whispers that, in seat 14A, Captain Sarah Morgan sat upright, hands folded loosely in her lap, eyes forward. She wore civilian clothes, simple, practical, nothing that stood out. Her dark jacket was zipped halfway, sleeves neat, boots scuffed just enough to look ordinary. If anyone noticed her at all, they would have assumed she was another professional traveling alone, maybe returning from a conference, maybe heading to one that she didn't read. She didn't sleep. She listened. Years of training had taught her how to rest without disconnecting, how to stay alert without looking tense. Her breathing was slow and controlled, her posture relaxed but ready. She was used to the hum of engines, the pressurized quiet of metal tubes miles above the earth. Aircraft didn't make her nervous. People pretending everything was normal sometimes did point 2 rows back. A pair of off-duty fighter pilots talked softly, their conversation drifting forward between bursts of laughter. Lieutenant Jake Turner and Major Chris Wallace had boarded together, still wearing their unit jackets, the patches unmistakable to anyone who knew what to look for. "She doesn't look like much," Turner said quietly, nodding forward. Wallace followed his glance. "Who?" "Front left. Been sitting like that since we boarded." Wallace shrugged. "Probably just tired." Turner smirked. "Or nervous." Sarah heard them. She always heard things like that. She didn't react. The flight attendants moved down the aisle, checking belts, offering water. Everything was routine. The captain's voice came over the intercom, calm and practiced, announcing cruising altitude. Then something changed. First, it was subtle, a shift in tone, a pause where there shouldn't have been one. The hum of the engine stayed the same, but the atmosphere inside the cabin tightened, like a held breath. Sarah felt it before she heard it. A soft click sounded overhead as a cockpit channel opened. Normally, passengers never heard cockpit radio traffic. But this wasn't normal. A faint voice crackled through the speakers, distorted but urgent. "Iron Fist, this is Falcon Lead. Do you copy?" A few passengers looked up, confused. Sarah's eyes sharpened. Iron Fist. She didn't move, but every sense was suddenly focused. The captain's voice came on again, this time more controlled, less conversational. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. We're coordinating with air traffic control for a brief routing adjustment." The intercom clicked off. The cockpit radio didn't. "Falcon Lead, Iron Fist copies," came another voice, clearer now. "We have a potential unidentified track approaching civilian airspace." The cabin went very quiet. Turner straightened in his seat. Wallace's smile faded. "Did you hear that?" Turner whispered. Wallace nodded slowly. "That's a call sign." Sarah closed her eyes briefly, then opened them again. Iron Fist wasn't just a call sign. It was a designation used for joint coordination when civilian and military airspace intersected under uncertain conditions. It meant something wasn't adding up. It meant decisions had to be made carefully, fast, and without panic. A flight attendant hurried toward the cockpit. Her smile gone, professionalism stretched tight over concern. The radio crackled again. "Iron Fist, Falcon Lead. We're holding position. Visual contact unconfirmed. Awaiting guidance." Sarah exhaled slowly. She reached in her jacket and pulled out a slim, unmarked phone. She didn't turn on yet. She waited for the right second point 2 rows back. Turner leaned closer to Wallace. "This isn't a drill." "No," Wallace said. "And they don't open that channel unless someone authorized it." Sarah stood. That IT wasn't dramatic. She didn't rush. She simply unbuckled, rose, and stepped into the aisle as if she were heading to the restroom that a flight attendant immediately noticed. "Ma'am, please return to your seat." Sarah stopped, turned slightly, and spoke quietly. "I need to speak to the cockpit." The attendant hesitated. "I'm sorry, that's not." Sarah reached into her jacket and produced a small, leather credential holder. She opened it just enough for the attendant to see, then closed it again. The attendant's eyes widened. Yes, ma'am, she said softly. This way. Passengers watched in confused silence as Sarah was escorted forward. Turner leaned back, eyes wide. What did she show her? Wallace didn't answer. He was staring at Sarah's steady walk, the way she moved like someone used to narrow corridors and high stakes. Inside the cockpit, the air was tense but controlled. The captain and first officer turned as Sarah entered. Captain Sarah Morgan, she said calmly. I'm clear to advise on joint airspace incidents. The captain blinked. Iron Fist? Yes, Sarah replied. On the ground and in the air. The radio crackled again. Iron Fist, Falcon lead. Unknown track is holding parallel course. No response to standard hails. Sarah stepped closer to the console. May I? The captain nodded. She leaned toward the mic, her voice steady and precise. Falcon lead, Iron Fist actual. Maintain distance. Do not escalate. We're verifying civilian flight plans now. There was a brief pause, then copy that, Iron Fist actual. The first officer glanced at her. Actual. Sarah didn't look up. It's faster. Her fingers moved across the display, cross-checking data, patterns, altitudes. Her mind worked through possibilities, not catastrophes. Captain, she said quietly, the track matches a misfiled charter flight. Wrong transponder code. No hostile intent. The captain exhaled. You're sure? As sure as we can be at this stage, Sarah said. Let's correct the code and notify Falcon lead. She keyed the mic again. Falcon lead, Iron Fist actual. Track identified as civilian charter with incorrect transponder. No action required. Resume standard patrol. The response came almost immediately. Copy, Iron Fist actual. Standing down. The radio went silent. The hum of the aircraft felt normal again. Sarah stepped back. The captain looked at her, a mix of relief and disbelief on his face. Thank you. It's my job, she said simply. She turned to leave. Back in the cabin, the tension slowly unwound. Passengers whispered, confused but relieved. Some laughed nervously. Others checked their phones, finding nothing to explain what had just happened. Sarah returned to her seat and buckled in .2 rows back. Turner leaned forward. Ma'am. Sarah glanced back. Turner cleared his throat. You with Iron Fist? She considered him for a moment. I work with a lot of people, she said. Wallace studied her carefully. Seal. Sarah gave a faint smile. Labels are for paperwork. Turner let out a slow breath. You sat there like nothing was happening. Something was happening, Sarah replied. Panic just wouldn't have helped. The rest of the flight passed quietly. The captain made a brief announcement about a minor delay, thanked everyone for their patience. Applause rippled through the cabin, unfocused but genuine as the plane descended. Sarah looked out the window, the ground rising steadily to meet them. Before landing, she recorded a short message on her phone, her voice low and calm. If you're watching this on the channel Generals and True Stories, make sure you subscribe. These stories aren't about dramatic moments. They're about quiet professionals doing what they're trained to do when it matters most. She stopped the recording as the wheels touched down, the familiar jolt grounding them all again. Around her, passengers gathered bags, stretched, chatted about dinner plans and meetings and traffic. Sarah waited her turn, then stood, blending back into the flow of people moving toward the exit. No one applauded her. No one asked for her name. That was fine, because the most important call sign had already been answered.